Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the managing director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. If you can't tell from the tone of my voice, I'm already fired up to make this video because it's about this notion of a global minimum tax that these globalist idiots have tried to foist on everyone around the world because they say so. That's the bit. I mean, that's really the summary for this video at the end. Stay and keep watching. But that said, that's what's really going on here. You know, I remember when this first came down, I remember reading an article talking about Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary back in the States. She was really on board with this. And, you know, it's just the same nonsense that, quite honestly, we've seen for years now. And it really since the beginning of COVID, where we just see these ideas percolate up out of these supranational organizations like the WHO or the WEF or whoever, wherever, and they all decided, hey, you know what? People around the world aren't taxed enough. We're going to come up with a global minimum tax, which means, what it really means at the end of the day is you have to pay taxes because you're born. That's what it comes down to. It's this notion. I talked about this, Sreta brought this up when he was still the prime minister. I did a video on it at the time. There is no inherent duty to pay tax just by dint of the fact that you're born on planet Earth. That is nonsense. That is nonsensical, totalitarian, technocratic, just hogwash. Okay? And I can't stress it enough. And people, I saw some comment recently that said, why is this guy so obsessed with communism? Well, because it's around and it's awful. That's why. Why wouldn't I be obsessed with communism when 1 billion people practically live in the attic up here in Southeast Asia, who are sitting around with social credit scores and constant surveillance, totalitarian surveillance on all of their financial transactions? Yeah, I'm a little nervous about communism. Call me kooky. You know, I don't know why people can't see this stuff for what it is. That said, I thought of making this video after reading a recent article from the Bangkok Post, bangkokpost.com. Actually, I went back and reread it via bangkokpost.com. We're actually going to post the print edition because it was sent to me by a viewer. Credit where credit's due. That's where I initially found this. That said, quoting directly, BOI eager to dull minimum tax pain is the title. Quoting directly, under a new law being drafted, again, drafted, and this is sort of being framed as if this is just coming. This is a foregone conclusion. This is going to happen. Well, as we'll get to, no one here has signed off on this. This hasn't gone through due process. It hasn't gone through Parliament, hasn't gone through the cabinet. It's just a bunch of talk. You know, and as we discussed in another video, there was a bunch of talk before about how this is going to be implemented, this, that, and the other thing. And then I quoted directly from someone within the finance ministry who finally had to say, and I cited the direct quotation where they said, this is going to take years. And I would actually add to that, this is going to take years if it happens at all. Because again, I'm really tired of the media framing this as a foregone conclusion. No, this needs to go through legislative due process. People that are actually going to be subjected to these taxes need to have a say in how they're going to be assessed. And it looks to me like if left to their own devices, these globalists in the media would just gladly steamroll this over everybody. Well, that's not going to be happening because that's not how the system works here in Thailand. That said, quoting further, under a new law being drafted by the Revenue Department, individuals residing in Thailand for 180 days or more must pay personal income tax on overseas earnings, regardless of whether that income is brought into Thailand. Again, that's their proposal. Quoting further, the department said earlier the law aims to set a minimum tax rate. Well, who voted for that? And why do we all just need to be taxed by dint of being alive? That's what a minimum tax rate means. You just have to be taxed because you're breathing. You know, it's the same kind of nonsense logic that we had during COVID where it was you have an affirmative duty to put on a mask because we say so, not based on any notion of law, not based on any notion of common law, civil law, or natural law. This is nonsense. It's nonsense purveyed by, in my opinion, a bunch of charlatans who are trying to extract wealth from the Thai people. Quoting further, the tax aligns with the principle of global minimum tax. Whose principle? Ain't my principle. Quoting again, Tax aligns with the principle of global minimum tax, ensuring large multinational corporations pay a minimum tax rate of 15% worldwide in the countries where they operate. Well, if this has to do with corporations, why in just 2 paragraphs above it said, and I quote, under a new law being drafted by Revenue Department, individuals residing in Thailand for 180 days or more must pay personal income tax on overseas earnings regardless of whether that income is brought into Thailand. What is it? Corporate tax or is it an individual tax? Neither one I want, by the way. In some sort of, oh, we're the supranational authority, we're going to tell you how much tax you have to pay. No, this is Thailand. Thailand deals with its own tax policy internally and nationally, not supranationally. Quoting further, many countries have already imposed a GMT. Well, neato. If many countries jumped off a bridge, would Thailand follow? No, I would hope not. By the way, many countries have done a lot of dumb stuff the last couple of years. Doesn't mean Thailand needs to do it. Quite honestly, I kind of like the old government. Say what you will about them, they were at least insular enough. They didn't care what countries around the world were doing. They cared about what was good for Thailand, or at least ostensibly. Again, there's many things to be said about that government too. I'm not saying that. But we didn't have to deal with this nonsense for the decade or so they were running things. Quoting again, many countries have already imposed a GMT. This will affect investment plans and projections of multinational companies, he said. This is a spokesman. I urge those who are watching this video, go read that article in detail. That said, quoting further, Thailand needs to set a minimum tax rate following international agreements led by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD. Well, so we're just in OECD now? I thought it was going to take 5 years to get into OECD. And I thought we were looking at it. We were exploring it. It's going to happen. Really tired of this stuff being just gaslit, shoved down everyone's throat. This is what's happening. This is not what's happening. Go through due process. Do it right by the Thai system. I don't care what these globalists and these foreigners have to say about how things should work in Thailand, especially as it pertains to taxation of these people. This has been the narrative since day, I get fired up about this. I got Cherokee blood in me from back in America. This is the kind of thing that continuously happens. You see these foreigners show up and they just start telling you how things are going to go. Well, that's not how it's going to go in Thailand, because that's never how it's gone in Thailand. And it's going to continue that way. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of this smug, condescending, technocratic bureaucrat talk. Oh, well, it's happening. It's being drafted. No, this is a law being talked about. In my opinion, it's a terrible idea. It's something Thailand shouldn't touch with a 1,000-foot pole. It's not going to help anyone here in Thailand. It's only going to extract wealth out to foreigners. That's what's going to happen here. If you need any proof, it's in the pudding. It's called the West. Look at them. Look at their international trade systems. Look at their economic systems. Look at their sovereign debt. Don't bring this here. Quoting further, the Revenue Department said earlier the collection of this tax will depend on international cooperation and information exchange, as Thailand is a member of the OECD for tax information exchange among countries. How is it a member of OECD if it's not a member of OECD? We talked about this. I've cited this. It's on the channel. They said it's going to take 5 years. That was roughly about 9 months ago. But now they're talking about it as if it's a foregone conclusion. And why would Thailand share the tax information of her own citizens with outsiders, without at least having some kind of law promulgated on it, or some kind of, well, I'm not even going to get into international treaties because God knows what's buried in those. I want to see some actual promulgated laws. I am sick of this circumvention, this constant run around, in runs, all of this stuff. No, if you want to do this, you want to impose a global minimum tax on the Thais, promulgate a law here in Thailand and do it. I am sick of this globalist nonsense, and I am not going to stop. This needs to end. It needs to end now.